Emily also says that I'm more suitable as the successor to Jones Corporation CEO. So sign this form quickly.
My brother John handed me the divorce papers that my wife Emily had already signed. At this point, it couldn't be helped. I had wanted to separate anyway. It's an unexpected result, but it's okay.
Marrying Emily, the CEO's daughter, was a mistake for someone like you. You're out of your league. Too bad. I'll give you as much alimony as you want. You poor loser.
John said this as he took the signed papers from me.
Why would you become the CEO of Jones Corporation? Michael is the CEO.
No, that's the old arrangement. Emily is divorcing Michael and marrying me. So, I'm the new CEO.
That's where you're mistaken.
The lawyer laughed, but John still didn't believe him. When John realized it was true, my name is Michael Anderson, and I'm 32 years old. I work at a major trading company called Jones Corporation. I belong to the sales department. It's a big company, so there are many employees who graduated from top state universities or well-known overseas universities. But I joined Jones Corporation as a general sales employee with just a high school diploma. The reason I didn't go to college is because of my family situation. When I was in high school, my dad's business went bankrupt. Until then, we lived a relatively affluent life, but due to the large debts, we had to leave our home. My older brother, John, was a college student with just about 6 months left until graduation. He had already secured a job. Thanks to my parents managing to scrape together just enough for his last semester's tuition, John was able to graduate from college and moved out once he started working. As for me, I still had half of my high school years left. Fortunately, my grades were good, and I was able to get a scholarship, so I graduated, but there was no way I could afford to go to college. So, my parents asked John for help.
Can you support Michael to go to college?
However, John's response was cold.
Just because I have a job now doesn't mean I'm not still starting out in the working world. I can't afford to help him. Michael will have to get a job.
Hearing that, I gave up on college and started working. I considered applying for scholarships to go to college, but my parent debts were too large, and I could see a future where one of them might collapse while I was at college for 4 years. If John had contributed even a little to the household expenses, maybe I could have managed by working part-time. But John didn't offer a cent. On the contrary, he often asked our struggling parents for money, saying he was having a hard time.
I'm sorry, Michael.
My parents always apologized to me, but I sent them some money every month. To be honest, I was angry. I gave up college to work, and John, who graduated and got a job at a reputable company, is still relying on our parents. And isn't that money coming from what I earn? Looking back, my parents have always spoiled John. I sighed, remembering my childhood. I worked hard and focused solely on my job. Thanks to my efforts, I gradually gained recognition in the company and eventually became the top salesperson, regardless of my educational background. Our company, with annual sales of $300 million, has its best-selling products under its own brand, and in recent years, collaborations with popular characters have been doing well. We handle products ranging from $1 items that kids can buy with their allowance to $10,000 custom furniture. I was the one who proposed collaborating with those characters. Initially, my idea was ignored, but as I steadily increased sales with small items, it eventually caught the attention of our CEO, Robert.
Interesting. Let's integrate those characters into our brand and let Michael handle it since it was his idea.
With that, I was put in charge of the project, which became a huge success. In my 20s, I was promoted to the head of the second sales department, one of the 3 sales departments in the company. This led to an important encounter. It was at the company's anniversary party,
Are you the rising star in the sales department my dad mentioned?
Suddenly, an incredibly beautiful woman spoke to me. She was Emily Jones, the only daughter of Robert. I had heard that Emily was beautiful, but she exceeded my expectations. I fell in love with her at first sight. Emily was 2 years older than me and had been divorced once, but I was determined to marry her. Emily recognized my potential and accepted my proposal. However, when I went to tell our marriage, her father, Robert, didn't look pleased.
Emily is our only daughter, born late in our lives, and we've spoiled her. I worry that you might have a hard time with her.
I can overcome any hardship as long as I'm with Emily. I desperately persuaded Robert, and he finally gave us his blessing. Emily wanted a grand wedding, but since it was her second marriage, Robert preferred a private ceremony, and I didn't want anything extravagant either. So, we decided to only take photos with our parents. I didn't want to invite John. Since I started working, John had continued to receive financial support from our parents. He never visited home, just relied on them for money. Who would want to invite someone like that? Emily seemed dissatisfied, but she was happy with a luxurious honeymoon instead. We started our newlywed life in a high-rise apartment, but the happiness lasted only for a short while. Soon, that happiness would be blown away.
Why are you coming home so late every day?
Sorry, it's the busy season, so I might have to work overtime for a while.
Which is more important, me or your job?
Emily started blaming me with this classic line. She was incredibly possessive. She would contact me at all hours and persistently keep messaging until I replied. This happened during important meetings or critical negotiations with clients. It's not that she was particularly loving, worried about me, or even jealous. She just couldn't stand it when things didn't go her way. For instance, if she wasn't in the mood, she wouldn't even try to talk to me. Sometimes, I'd come home to find she was out and hadn't contacted me until the next morning, having been out with her friends. After 1 year of marriage, I was completely exhausted. I had heard that her previous marriage ended because her ex-husband was selfish and left, but now I understood why he might have wanted to leave. But Emily was the CEO's daughter, and I had begged to marry her. It wasn't easy to just walk away. I tried my best to improve the situation. After all, I had once been so in love with her that I married her. I still had feelings for her. We had many discussions and decided to work on our faults. On the surface, we had a calm life for about a year. A little while into the second year of my marriage with Emily, we had an unexpected visitor.
Wow, you live in a pretty nice place. As expected of the manager at Jones Corporation.
John, whom I hadn't seen in years, looked much younger and more handsome than his 37 years, 5 years older than me. Many people are fooled by his appearance. Even our parents showered him with affection since childhood, and even after the family fell on hard times, they scraped together his college tuition and kept sending him money. But why is he suddenly visiting us now? I was puzzled, but he's still my brother, and I couldn't just turn him away. I invited him in and, along with Emily, entertained him.
Sorry for the sudden visit. I wasn't invited to the wedding, and I didn't send any gift, so I decided to come by.
After saying that, John pulled out a rather ostentatious vase.
Here, you can decorate your house with this.
That day passed without any particular problems, and we had a brief chat before he left.
I had seen John in photos, but he's much more handsome in person. And the wedding gift was lovely. Such great taste.
Emily excitedly told me. As annoying as it was, I had to admit that John looked like a movie star. Opinions might differ on that vase, but Emily likes flashy things like that. From that day on, Emily kept asking about John. Like a fan wanting to know everything about a celebrity, she bombarded me with questions, but honestly, I didn't know much about him. We're 5 years apart, and I wasn't very close with him. Although Emily was disappointed by my words, she started talking to me again like a wife after a long time, even if it was about John. It felt like before we got married, and I started to feel somewhat happy again. John also contacted me a few times to thank me for the hospitality.
We're the only two brothers in the world, so we should get along better from now on.
Hearing John's words, I felt strangely happy. The long-standing resentment I had towards him began to fade away. A few months after I started staying in touch with John, something unexpected happened.
Please divorce me.
I was shocked by the sudden request. Even though I had sometimes wanted to separate, I never expected her to say it so abruptly. I asked Emily for a reason.
I don't want to talk about it. I just want a divorce.
However, Emily wouldn't give me a reason and remained cold. Let's just calm down and talk. Why don't you go back to your parents' house for a while? I sent Emily back to her parents' house, but when I checked, she hadn't gone there, which worried Robert and me a lot.
Don't worry, I'm fine. Don't try to find me.
That was the last message I got from Emily on my phone. After that, there was no further contact. What in the world is going on? Just when I was considering going to the police, I got a call from John. Sorry, I'm really busy right now and can't talk to you, John.
Oh, I called to talk about that.
John said something strange and suggested we meet at a certain restaurant, specifying the date and time. I had a bad feeling but couldn't refuse it. However, on that day, I was too busy with work to make it to the restaurant, so I invited John to my house.
Sorry for the sudden visit. I thought it would be easier to talk in a public place, but this is fine too.
What does he mean by that, could it be? I felt a sense of foreboding, but I also had an idea of what he might say.
Divorce Emily. She says she wants to marry me.
Oh, I knew it. John visited me out of the blue back then because he had ulterior motives. He suggested a public place like a restaurant so I wouldn't cause a scene.
Was a mistake for someone like you. You're out of your league. Too bad. I'll give you as much alimony as you want, you poor loser.
John said this as he took the signed papers from me. Hearing those words, I suddenly remembered everything John had done, and I felt my blood boiling. I gave up going to college because John wouldn't help. After I gave up on college and started working, John relied on my salary by getting financial support from our parents. No matter how much I helped our parents, their affection for John never wavered. As I looked down in silence, John misunderstood and continued with even harsher words.
Do you know how much it annoyed me when I heard you married the CEO's daughter? You didn't even finish school, yet you act so high and mighty. Know your place.
John spat out the words. Any amount, right?
Yeah, with $300 million in assets. I'll pay you any alimony you want, $1 million or $2 million. Emily said the same thing.
Got it. I'll have my lawyer contact you. Take these papers with you for now. John, smirking, put the papers in his bag and headed for the door. Of course, I didn't see him off. As I reached for the door to the hallway, John spoke again.
Oh, and I'll take this apartment too.
What?
Emily said this place isn't in your name. So, once the divorce is finalized, you have no right to live here.
John looked around the room lovingly and said,
Well, I know it'll be tough for you, so I'll give you a month to move out. Aren't I generous?
Praising himself, John left the room. Say whatever you want. You'll be the one crying later. I imagined John's smug face turning into a tearful one, and a satisfied smile spread across my face. Not long after, my divorce from Emily was finalized.
It's a shame. I thought it might work out between you two.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm the one who should apologize. I'm truly sorry for raising a daughter like her.
Robert apologized to me. No, it's my fault. If I had communicated better with Emily, this wouldn't have happened.
Still, why did John do something like that?
I explained my thoughts to Robert. He probably couldn't stand that someone he had always looked down on had become a manager at a top company and married the CEO's daughter. Everything about it bothered him. He must have been waiting for the right opportunity. Of course, he couldn't act immediately after the wedding, but waited for things to settle down. Confident in his looks, he thought he could easily win Emily over. And his scheme succeeded. He probably thinks that if he becomes Emily's husband, he will be the successor to Jones Corporation and become the CEO.
Well, he's free to think that.
Robert and I exchanged a wry smile. I quickly hired a lawyer and started preparing to claim alimony, citing John and Emily's infidelity as the cause of the divorce. They both said they'd pay any amount, and they seemed willing to agree to any other conditions. I first contacted John. My lawyer will bring the documents, so please meet us at the restaurant you mentioned.
Unlike you, I can have a gentlemanly conversation, so I was fine with meeting at the lawyer's office or your apartment.
Whether he was being smug, sarcastic, or just annoying, John responded this way. Well, if you can be gentlemanly to the end, that's fine, but just in case. I heard a triumphant laugh from the other end of the line. Make sure you stick to the time and date. I reminded him and hung up. John and Emily arrived right on time on the specified day. Both were dressed in high-end suits, branded watches, and visibly expensive accessories. According to my lawyer, they looked stunning together, as one would expect from such a handsome couple. The lawyer proceeded with his duties calmly, unaffected by what the other party was wearing. First, we informed them of the alimony amounts.
Emily's is $30,000, and mine is $500,000. That's quite a difference.
Despite saying he'd pay any amount, John grimaced at the disparity. The lawyer explained the breakdown. First, since the marriage with Emily lasted only 2 years, $30,000 was deemed appropriate even with the infidelity included. I agreed with that assessment.
So why is mine so high?
The lawyer explained that John's responsibility for the marriage breakdown was also $30,000, but other factors were included.
First, there's the debt your parents owe.
What?
Michael has been helping his parents repay their debts since he started working. Thanks to him, the debt has significantly decreased, but he wants you to share that burden.
The total amount I had helped repay for my parents' debt was about $500,000. I wanted John to share the burden, so we included half of that, $250,000, in the alimony. Additionally, my parents had supported John using my earnings, totaling about $200,000. Over 14 years, it would amount to roughly that much. We wanted that repaid. Adding $20,000 in interest to that amount, the total came to $500,000.
I thought he'd demand $1 million or $2 million. But he's so petty. Even as my brother, I find him disgusting. Fine, I'll pay.
John grimaced as he listened to the breakdown, but, with a hint of resentment, agreed. With that, we reached an agreement on the alimony amount. Both of them signed the documents. Next, we discussed the division of property. At this point, John reportedly smirked. He was likely imagining the penthouse, the car Emily drove, and various other things, which brought a smile to his face. However, the reality was different from what John expected.
First, the high-rise apartment. It belongs to Jones Corporation, so Emily will not be able to return there.
What?
The lawyer explained that when Emily and I started our married life, we were allowed to live in that apartment as a company residence by Robert.
What the hell is that?
John instinctively raised his voice and started to stand up, but reconsidering the setting, he merely lifted himself slightly before sitting back down. He had assumed that since Emily said it wasn't in my name, it belonged to her. Apparently, Emily also thought it was hers.
Dad said we could consider it my home.
The car is also a company car, so it needs to be returned.
What?
John's eyes widened at the lawyer's words.
Most of the smaller assets also belong to Robert.
The lawyer explained matter-of-factly. As the discussion progressed, John bit his lip and trembled with anger, but remained patient, likely thinking he would still get something substantial in the end. The lawyer explained that most of the assets used during the marriage did not belong to Emily, and that I would keep all the savings.
Why? The savings accumulated during the marriage should be split between the spouses.
John almost stood up again, but managed to restrain himself this time as well.
Most of Michael's earnings during the marriage were spent by Emily. The remaining savings are mostly what Michael had saved before the marriage.
John glared at Emily, who pretended to know nothing.
I didn't live extravagantly. I just lived a normal life.
Emily genuinely believed that. As a CEO's daughter, she never experienced hardship or restraint. She always spent all the money I earned, and whenever it wasn't enough, she expected Robert, the CEO, to cover the rest. John bit his lip but took a deep breath and managed to endure. I had to admire my brother's patience, despite everything. With that, the settlement of the divorce with me was completed. Finally, the topic John had been eagerly waiting for came up.
So, when should I start a Jones Corporation? I know I can't just take over immediately. I'll need to get used to the company first.
Excuse me?
This time, it was the lawyer's turn to respond in surprise.
No, I mean, once I marry Emily, I'll be the heir, right? I'll be the next CEO. I can't just become CEO overnight.
John apparently smiled lewdly, imagining the moment, as the lawyer explained with a wry smile.
Why would you become the CEO of Jones Corporation? Michael is the CEO.
No, that's the old arrangement. Emily is divorcing Michael and marrying me. So, I'm the new CEO.
That's where you're mistaken.
The lawyer laughed, but John still didn't believe him. In the end, John refused to believe anything the lawyer said that day. So, we decided to call John and Emily to the CEO's office at Jones Corporation later for a clear explanation.
I won't let Emily inherit anything from this company. In other words, she's disowned.
Dad, that's cruel.
What's cruel? Think about everything you've done. I paid all the alimony to your previous husband. I cleaned up all the messes you made.
Emily held an executive position at Jones Corporation, but had a history of failing at everything she tried, misusing company funds for personal pleasures, and bankrupting several companies. To stop her from causing more damage, Robert had arranged a marriage with a company president, hoping it would calm her down. But even after that, Her selfish behavior didn't change, leading to the divorce.
I had hoped that maybe Michael could handle Emily, but things have turned out this way.
If that's the case, let me take care of Emily properly this time.
I had you investigated, and I don't think you're capable of that.
Robert shot back at John. John was just like Emily. With his good looks and pampered upbringing, he behaved like a king wherever he went. This attitude caused him to fail at various jobs, and he repeatedly relied on our parents.
I am making Michael the next CEO. The shareholders have already approved it. Michael is the heir to the company.
John, do you understand what a corporation is? Even if you marry the CEO's daughter, you can't just become CEO. I earned the shareholders' approval through my achievements. Hearing this, John collapsed into a chair, while Emily, acting like a child scolded by a parent, stormed out of the office in anger. Afterward, I was formally adopted by Robert, making me the official heir. In fact, this had already been discussed when I married Emily, but I couldn't commit because of my parents. No matter how they treated me compared to John, they were still my parents. However, my parents were complicit. They believed that if John married Emily, their own future would be secure. I decided to cut ties with them. I disowned my parents, and Robert disowned his daughter. Understanding each other's pain, we became parent and child, bonded by a difficult connection.
I came from a poor background and built Jones Corporation from the ground up. I lost my wife, who was with me during those tough times, at a young age. Out of pity, I spoiled Emily and raised her into the person she is now.
Robert, or rather, my father, said this to me with a sad expression. Robert knew me well since I joined the company right after graduating from high school. That's because my biological dad's company was like a subsidiary of Jones Corporation. So he knew my parents well. He knew that they ruined the company with their naive thinking, causing trouble for the employees, and that instead of reflecting on their mistakes, they only lamented their bad luck. I also learned later that he had been watching over me as I worked hard and diligently despite being raised by such parents.
I thought you might be able to manage Emily, but in the end, it only brought you hardship. I'm sorry.
When Robert apologized, I realized I had received the kind of affection from him that I had never gotten from my biological parents. Even though we said we disowned our families, I think neither Robert nor I could completely abandon our blood relatives. However, we also knew that easily extending a helping hand was a mistake. If they ever truly looked at themselves, reflected on their actions, and wanted to live honestly, we would be there to support them. That day might never come, but I want to hold on to that hope. After everything, John and Emily apparently turned to my parents for support. I don't know if they officially registered their marriage, but it seems the four of them are somehow living together. The debts are gone, and they should be able to get by. I hope they can help each other and live straight from now on.